Before the episode, we have a couple announcements to make. One, if you are going to be at Emerald City Comic Con or C2E2, we will be there also. We'll have a booth and we're doing some panels, and you can get our schedule and location at sartorialgeek.com. And two, we just revamped our entire Patreon page. We have all new rewards, and we have 4 new goals that we're super excited about, from getting this podcast paid for to paying all of our contributors on our website to having like really cool new things at our events booth. So if you join our Patreon in the month of March, we have an exclusive and Peggy enamel pin that you'll be getting. It's just available through Patreon just for the month of March 2019. And we are really, really, really excited about it. So if you want to support us or just get cool exclusive swag, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Sartorial Geek. This episode of the Sartorial Geek podcast is sponsored by Little Petal. Little Petal is the most comfortable, subtly nerdy convertible dresses you can imagine. They're all made based on your measurements, and they all have pockets. The designs are based on your favorite characters, and they're subtle enough that they can be worn to work parties, but you can also wear them to a Comic-Con. They're super, super comfy, and if you're nervous about the wrap dress part, they have over 40 tutorials on their website, so you don't have to worry about that. You can use the code Sartorial for free shipping, so go check them out at littlepetal.net. Hey, welcome to the Sartorial Geek podcast. I'm Jordan Ellis of Jordan Danae, and I am here with Stacie Sells. How are you?
Oh, I am doing great.
I think this is the first, if I'm not misremembering, I think this is the first time we have a mom on talking about being a nerdy mom and about kids and stuff, which I'm very excited about.
Is that weird? That just gave me goosebumps.
I love that. I don't know if this is like common knowledge about me, but I was a nanny for like 10 years and I went to school to be an elementary school teacher. So I am like all about kids and hanging out with them and like how they learn. And I love talking to people about kids. So I'm so excited about this.
Well, looky here. This will be perfect for you because I am just inundated in a child right now. So
yeah. Well, so first, like, what is your family? You have one kid or what is your, okay, cool.
Yep. Just got one little dude. His name's River.
Awesome.
He is almost 2, which is, oh my God, like that sort of blows my mind already because I feel like this whole process of becoming a mom is so fast, but also really slow. Like one thing I tell some of my other mom friends is that I feel like it's short months, but long weeks.
That makes so much sense, actually. I totally get that.
I was about to say, as a former nanny, I'm sure you understand that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like stuff changes so fast.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's changed so fast.
It's crazy. I was looking at old pictures and realizing how much his face has changed already and how he's like not a baby anymore. He's a little like human and it's like, I knew he was going to be a human. I guess I didn't think I sort of did think I was having an alien throughout the whole pregnancy. I kept on picturing, alien popping out of me. It's fine.
I mean, babies look a little crazy when they're newborn, so that makes sense.
They all look like aliens or little old men or something.
Absolutely. It's weird. No, you're right.
So it's just been a crazy thing to see this sort of passage of time, that puts you in that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
The passage of time.
And it changes your life too, becoming a parent versus.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That is a huge life change.
Yeah. It's sort of a crazy like identity shift, but not identity shift. There's this, so I feel with pregnancy, you have this idea of what it's supposed to be. And you sort of build yourself up to it. You like the way that I dealt with it is like through humor and making jokes, like saying, like I have this grand idea of, when you become pregnant, you're basically turning into a superhero. It's like when Peter Parker gets bit by the radioactive spider, all these things start to change. Like your senses become heightened, which is great because you're nauseous. So that's cool.
Right.
It's like, sweet. Now I can really smell the pee on the street when I'm walking to work. Neat.
Very fun. That sounds great.
It was probably, that was probably one of the worst times of anything. We were living in California at the time, and I traveled into San Francisco and would ride the train station. And while I was, some months pregnant and feeling sick and just being crammed into the little train and everything. And it's sort of a cruel trick because you don't look pregnant, though you really want to be like, hey, can I sit down? But
right.
I had this whole sense of pride in my head where I'm like, I'm fine. I can do this, which is stupid on my part, but.
No, it is hard when, obviously when you're 8 months pregnant, most people, it's relatively obvious, but it's hard. And a lot of months where no one knows or no one would just know by looking at you. So you're like, okay, I guess no one else can tell.
Can I sit, or are you going to think I'm lying? I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that sort of got me through this idea because for a while, I think becoming a mom was sort of this old school, I always think of the 1950s housewife for some reason, because I feel like it's still trickling into our parents' past and then their parents' past of how, what the ideal mom should be. So I think for a while, even thinking about becoming a mom was weird. I felt weird about it. It was a subject. I was like, ugh, I don't want to be a mom. But
there is definitely a lot of stigma around all parts of it. Getting pregnant, being pregnant, then being a mom. And I don't have kids, but I've, have so many friends who have, and I've seen it. There's just so much around it, on all sides. Yeah.
And it just it scared me because I didn't want to fall into this, oh, if I'm a mom, I'm going to, wear those sexy, high-waisted, stretchy elastic jeans, which I sort of do want now.
Right.
I was like, maybe they got something there. Or become a soccer mom. But, I think it wasn't until I met one of my friends who had a kid she was probably a couple, 3-4 months old when I first met her. And I would go over to her house and hang out during nap time. And then when Olive would wake up, I got to, see this cool kid. And then I've seen her grow. I think she's 5 now, which is insane to me.
Oh,
but
cool.
I also saw her mom, Bridget, being still herself. She still was real wacky and had a sense of, who she was and made it cool. And that was the first time I realized oh, you could be a cool mom. And not saying my mom's not cool. I love her. She's amazing. But that's my mom. And you're so close to it that you see it in a different lens. I think maybe not everybody, but.
No, that makes sense. Cause when you're growing up, parents are just this adult thing. And then you become adults and you're like, oh my God, parents are people like me. And I totally know what you're talking about where you see your friends either stay the same and keep the personality they had before just with a kid in the mix, or some people completely change. It's really wild to watch that.
And it's inevitable that I'm going to turn into my mom, which is fine. That's fine. But it was cool to see that she was still honing in on her passions and what she liked to do and how she still does that. And she was just this inspiration to know that I could still be myself and have a kid and just, make it what I wanted it to be too. That was one of the first moments I had that light bulb of being oh, I have the power to do this.
And I think that leads perfectly into obviously at Sartorial Geek, we're obsessed with community and being around other people who are different from you and going through similar things to you. And I think this is a perfect example of how being around other people who like you can look up to and you can see how they're handling things. And like that kind of leads perfectly into what you're doing now as like a way to bring moms together, which I think is really cool.
Oh my God, because you need that. Like that's like the one part of, there's always moms who are like, let me give you my advice. But this is one that I feel is very important, is just finding that group of moms, like in any shape or form, because like either in person or online, because there's so much that is so new and scary that it's hard to parse out by yourself. And I feel like you do feel sort of isolated at first, because it is this scary thing that, it's a scary little person that demands so much
absolutely.
of your time and, energy. And, before, like back in the olden days when we all lived around our family, they were able to help us out. But now, like, we are all so spread out that it's hard to have that support anymore. So it's like trying to find the support in other ways. So like building up a community, like, online through Facebook. Like one of my friends had sent me a invite to a new moms group. And then I wanted to try to do that too, because I feel like it was really important to show that there's support for each other. And, we are there to listen and have no judgment on how you're doing it. Cause that's the one thing that's hard to parse out too, is like, there's so much out there there's like
too much.
It really is.
Totally.
And it's just trying to find your niche of a group too, like the moms that you fit in with, because, like in the world, as is, we all connect with different types of people. So it's like, of course, we'll also connect with different types of people when you're, become a parent all of a sudden.
Yeah, I love that. Like finding, like I know this just from nannying, not even doing it in my own like life, how much more is going on then. But there are like unlimited resources and unlimited communities, but like finding the one that fits with you or clicks with you is so important. And I totally agree with that.
And like the one thing that I definitely want to showcase too, because I wanted to make a community that was more geeky and show, hone in on that a little bit more, because I want to find other geek moms, so
absolutely,
what could be a funny group for us? And I thought of like the League of Extraordinary Mamas. Forget those gentlemen. Like, let's get the moms in here because they really know what's up.
I love that name. That's so great.
And I just love to focus on the humor of it all too, because you can't take it too seriously. Like, you're going to get pooped on and peed on and vomited on, and
you'll be so stressed out.
Yes.
Like, you can't be that worried every second of the rest of your life, because you will go crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, I already get woken up in the middle of the night from River, but also just from my own anxiety of thinking of things, this downward spiral of, thoughts in the middle of the night. It's like, I don't need any more of that. I can handle that on my own. Like, I don't need any other
absolutely
stresses in my life.
And I think like this is something that we've talked about on the podcast a lot, but I think is really cool that like so many things are like coming out into the open that I feel like where either people felt shame around or they like felt like we shouldn't talk about. And I feel like there's so much of that with parenting. Like I have a ton of friends who are being super honest about like how hard it is for them to get pregnant. Yeah. And that's so hard to go through alone. So having, even just knowing you're not the only person. And then also new moms who are really open about like how much anxiety they have around it and how stressful it is and how much pressure is on you. It's so nice to like
be able to be honest and then also know that you're not, because I imagine that feels insanely isolating if you're like, everyone else is doing this perfectly and it's so hard for me, and like that's not true at all.
No, not at all. Like I try to be very transparent through like my posts and through just pictures I even have on my own personal Instagram that, you know, sometimes it sucks, you know, sometimes it's not all, you know, giggling smiles. It's sometimes crying at you constantly, and you know your boobs are just out and tired and ready to
No, totally. That's like the real side of things.
Oh yeah.
So how does your community work? Like where does it live, or like how do people find out about it or join?
I mainly have it through Facebook. There is a group called the League of Extraordinary Mamas, and then I also have a website with the same name. I have not been great at keeping up on the website, but you know, I feel
you're a little busy, so that makes sense.
I know, like as long as I post every so often, it'll be fine. And you know, just trying to balance out, you know, self-care and realizing when I can and also want what to post besides the fact. But so on Facebook, the website, and then on Instagram, all with the same name. And it's just really, right now, it's just mainly been connecting people or
Very
trying
cool.
to, you know, have conversations and to get people understanding that this is a safe space for you to come and ask questions. Like no question is too, you know, stupid or small. Cause I feel like a lot of the times you think that this worry you have is not a big deal, or you feel you're worried that it's, you know, someone else will think it's not a big deal when, you know, I want to create a space where it's okay to have those conversations. Like, I found this rash on my son. Is this anything I should be worried about? Or is it just diaper rash? And knowing that there's other moms out there to support you and to have your back is so important. Like throughout the whole experience, not just through the beginning part, but like throughout, I feel like their whole life in some sense.
Yeah. Do people join who are like, while they are pregnant too? Like, are there people at like all stages of becoming parents?
I am encouraging all of that.
Yeah, sweet.
Because I know that it's weird at first with the whole pregnancy thing. And it's funny how there's this shift from, I have a friend who's pregnant now, and I'm telling her, I was like, I'll be really honest with you, but just let me know how much honesty you want from it.
Right.
I also don't want to scare you.
Totally, yes.
Because I know for me, I wanted to know all of the details of, you know, everybody's birth, because I feel like that's sort of our war stories in some sense. Like we all have a different birth, and, you know, some are traumatic and some are, you know, easy and as easy as a birth can go. And, you know, we all have these different variants of tearing, which is fun to talk about.
Listen, I remember like I grew up, like I was usually like the oldest kid. So I would always like babysit when I was a kid, and I was around so many babies. And then as I got older and like started being on the same level as like the parents, there is so much that I learned for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, thankfully I'm learning this before. Like so many things I was like, if this had just happened to me and I had no idea, I would have lost my mind.
Yes, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I feel like needs to be talked about. Like nobody wants to talk about, not nobody wants to talk about it, but I felt like there wasn't a lot of spaces where
No, you're absolutely right.
You felt comfortable talking about that. And like you had said before, I do think the conversation is turning toward that a little bit more. Like you have like Ali Wong's stand up. Like,
absolutely.
Hard Knock Wife is amazing. I was watching it and like crying because I just felt for her. I'm like, she just knows me. She is speaking the truth. And even like Chrissy Teigen talking about, you know, how she felt after pregnancy and how your body changes, because there is this like having another like superhero analogy, like I think of it as a mutation, like you're part of the X-Men now, you went through this change, you know, your body is different, your vagina is different. Like you have to realize that is something that I never had anyone tell me that, you know, and I think it's interesting because then you are coming into it trying to figure out your new self and your new body and being okay with that. And, you know, how it can be hard at times because it's like, oh, I got a little pooch now because, you know, I did create a human being in my body for 9 months and carried it, which is, you know, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But and it's just like this whole aspect that you've changed, but you haven't changed. Like, I still feel like myself. I still feel that I can, you know, collect my Funko Pops and, you know, have weird graphic t-shirts of Supernatural, you know, like Dean and Sam on myself. And, you know, just have, I'm not allowing that to be taken away from me because I don't think, you know, I don't feel like it's, I guess I'm trying to say, how I don't feel like I have to fit into this mold of what a mom should be. Like, I feel like I can still dress like a cartoon character and still be a mom, because what it comes down to is like I'm providing this space and this life for my little dude and having fun with it, because now I just have somebody else to buy toys for, and I can say it's for him too.
And I think that's so cool. Like I go to a lot of Comic-Cons, and I remember the first time I started like meeting new people and finding out that some of them were parents. And it's like, okay, cool. That's very cool that you enjoyed these things before you had kids. And obviously, you know, changes have happened, but you can still find ways to like do some of the things that you used to love doing. And like, you can make it work. You don't have to like change your entire life and lose everything about the way you used to be. And I think that it's also cool to see how other people do it. Like how, because I see the vendor side of things. So I see like vendors with newborns who like bring like a partner or a family member to help trade off to like feed their kids. And like just different ways that you can do it is very cool.
And just also sharing this thing with your kid too. Like, you don't have to make it separate. You can introduce them to these, you know, passions of yours, because they will see how much you enjoy it and will enjoy it too. And like, he's still a little like, whatever. I say he's still a little young, but we've watched Steven Universe because I want to show him this at an early age, you know. I want to show him this empathetic, you know, boy who is in touch with his emotions and who's around these powerful women, and to being, you know, excited about that and having it create this space, you know, for him to be okay that he cries and to feel his feelings. Cause I think that's super important. And to just, cause I feel like with geeky stuff, there's a lot of that will support that, like this change in these feelings and being in touch with those. And I definitely am going to try my best to introduce them to him, and, you know, he can either accept it or like whatever else he likes, because it's his choices.
And that's cool too, to have a community where you can talk about that kind of stuff, because like, it's nice to, I mean, I get recommendations from people all the time. So like, you know, you may not have looked at the different parts of like nerd culture or pop culture from a parent lens before. So I'm sure it's nice to be like, hi, I have a 3-year-old. Does anyone else have like age appropriate ideas of like books or cartoons or whatever? And like, even just have conversations like that of shows like Steven Universe that are, you know, you can watch with younger kids. That's really cool.
And the idea too, that there's just so many things out there too that you can that people have already created. Like there's a couple of, I forget the author's name, but there's like an X-Files kids book and a Buffy the Vampire kids book.
Yeah, and I know Quirk has some like ABCs and counting books that are Star Wars or different nerd related, which is cool.
And they have a lot of like superhero ones, like my first book of Girl Power, which are all like DC superheroes, and then like Goodnight Batman or something. And
very cool.
So it's cool to be able to introduce those to him and to know that there's these things out there for him to that he will find out that I enjoy. Because one of my favorite things that happened, at least during the last couple months, is he's gotten really into squirrels, and I'm in love with.
So cute.
And I'm in love with Squirrel Girl, so
yeah, that's perfect.
I was like, oh snap, you're getting this doll at the one that they have at Target. I'm like, I'm buying you Squirrel Girl.
That's so cool. And that's cool too that you already knew that, but like I just heard about Squirrel Girl for the first time like a year ago, so that's a cool thing that like you can now tell other moms who maybe, because she's not a huge character yet that like lots of people know, but yeah, I hope that changes. But like that's another cool thing to be like, oh, your kids like these two things, there's a superhero for that, which is so awesome.
Like, here you go. But yeah, it's like currently on my desk right now. I'm like, well, we'll see how this goes.
That's so cool. I love that. And I really love the analogy of like, I've just been thinking about different things while we've been talking, like when you were talking about how your body changes, it's so much like more comforting to think about that in the way of like when a superhero first gets their powers and they're trying to figure everything out, like that's a much better vision to have of what you're going through than just being like sad, which I feel like is what like society in general has been like, yeah, everything is terrible and worse. And it's like, that's not true or healthy or anything you want to think about. Like more positive analogies are amazing.
Because then we're like, your life is never going to be the same and it's going to suck. It's like,
yeah,
no, it doesn't have to. Like it can be what you it can be fun. Like you can have this, like I just think of him as my new like sidekick, and and then he'll go on to have his own origin story or whatever. But right now he's my sidekick.
I love that so much. That's so cool.
Right, and I do want to like have my goal in this whole thing is to have these different cycles of becoming a mom or a parent. Like you have your like before sidekick, and then you have you and your sidekick, and then you have their origin stories and how they, grow up to be their own person, and, they'll find their own self-worth and superpower and all that stuff. And so that's eventually
so cool.
In my brain that will happen in some form or another. Who knows?
No, that's awesome though. And even just thinking about like your journey as a parent in those lines is very cool.
Yeah, because there's that time you're gonna have to let go, even though that seems very far off to me right now, because me and River are very in it all the time. I
mean, yeah, you are a lot of years away from that. But it is good to have those kinds of things, in your mind. Like, yeah, that's smart of you.
That's going to happen eventually. And but right now I'm having a lot of fun. Just, my favorite thing is during Halloween, he doesn't really have an opinion yet. So
very fun.
Had a lot of fun. So he's had 2 Halloweens so far. So the first year he was the log, and I was the log lady from Twin Peaks. And
very cute.
Just had him in a baby Bjorn and put like felt log stuff that I made on it. And then this year, him and his best friend were. I say best friend, but it's mainly because me and his mom are like really good friends. And she gets me. I feel she's the closest person because it is cool when you find the moms that you just click with automatically. Like you both have the same temperament of how you're raising your kid, and you're just, it's a magical moment when that happens, when you're like, this is awesome. And then your kids also get along, and they live like a street away, which is cool. So it's all like this magicalness that is cool when it happens. So they went as Bill and Ted from Excellent Adventure, and me and her mom went as Bill and Ted from Bogus Journey, and I made a cool phone booth out of cardboard that is slowly getting destroyed in my house because he likes to walk around in it and knock it over and jump on it.
Yep.
I know. I'm just like, this makes me so proud. This is amazing.
That's so cool.
So it's just,
I love that.
And just finding, it's just super amazing when you do find your community of moms, and it's either through online or through like story times or like mom meetups. It's just very nice to know that, like you had said before, you're not alone in it, and how you can find those moms that you can text at like 3 a.m. because they're probably up, and ask them questions or just say hey or send them a stupid gift to get you through the day or night, because it's hard, and it definitely is a new experience that you can't really describe until you go through it, I guess, too.
And that's the great part about communities. Like I'm all about the idea of like, it takes a village, and like getting wisdom from people who have done things before you and then passing it on to people who are doing things after you. So that's like the other amazing thing about a community of parents, because there are so many stages. So like you can talk to people who have been through what you're going through already, and then people who are doing, something that you've already done. I think that is so great.
And so helpful, because you're just like, I'm not crazy. Like I have, he's like so River still wakes up in the middle of the night. And for a while I had felt that I was a failure as a mom because he wasn't sleeping through the night when I felt like everybody else's kids were sleeping through the night. And one of our neighbors, she has a 10-year-old who is River's like idol. He is this kid who's in love with him. It's adorable. Like he's his adoptive little brother. Aww. And she told me, she's like, it's just so weird because Jules was exactly like this when he was a kid. He didn't sleep at all, and he was just super active and just would keep on going. But, eventually he'll fall asleep, and you've got to do what's best for you, and don't listen to anybody else. Like, just do what is right for you. Like, don't sweat the things that other people are telling you that you should be doing, which I felt was very encouraging and freeing, because I was reading a book on sleep training and it was stressing me out. And then when she told me that, I was like, oh, okay, you're right. I should just make it work the way that I, read River and see how he feels and go with him instead of going with this book that is telling me about a specific baby that might not be my baby, because
absolutely
everybody's different. It's like every baby is different. Every mom's different. Every dad's different. Every, partner's different. It's this thing that gets sort of glossed over with parenting, because there's just a lot that people think they know. And then you don't necessarily.
No, I think that's so important. And that also ties into geekiness too, where it's like, if you ever thought all people were the same, we're not. No. And that's such a huge thing, to be able to be yourself. I feel like that is something that most of us have had to come to terms with at some point, where it's like, you're not always told or taught that you can be unique, and you can, and we should celebrate that.
Yes.
And that's very cool.
Yeah. So be that mom you want to be.
I love this so much. So if someone is listening and they're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. How do I join this? Where should they go to find you and find what you're doing and connect with other nerdy parents?
The best would be on Facebook to join the League of Extraordinary Mamas group. And that is a place where you can go and ask questions and find other nerdy moms. So far, I've gotten mostly moms that are located like close by, because they've been a lot of my friends. And so I'm in Ohio, in Columbus. Cool. So there's that. But, I definitely want a more, all over the place community. Like I have friends out in California, and I would love to just hear, because we're all the same when it comes down to it. We're all just trying to keep our kid alive and fed, and, making them a cool, like kind person. And it's just nice to know that there is a space there. And usually I have an Instagram too, where I post, pictures and stuff. I'm trying to get better at updating that more often. And then my the website League for Extraordinary Mamas has articles that I've written that are mainly like written while I'm waiting for River to go to sleep. So some of them don't make sense maybe, but I feel that's fair. I feel like if there's another mom out or a parent out there, because I'm not just saying moms, I'm saying parents in general too, because I feel like it's a whole new journey, but mainly moms, I guess. But there's a lot of stuff out there that are just like thoughts of how I'm feeling or stresses I'm having, or conversations I've had with other moms, or a poem about going to sleep, or please go to sleep, because sleep is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know why River doesn't realize that yet. So we'll see.
I mean, that's the eternal question. Why don't kids realize how wonderful sleep is?
It's not until they're like a preteen, and then I'm sort of like, you had your chance to sleep all the time, man.
I know. Take advantage while you're very young.
Yeah, but nope. River's like, there's too much to do. There's too many things to see.
That's fair.
Which I get, because there's a lot.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much for chatting about this. This is like a very fun, hopefully this will be far from the last nerdy parent conversation we have. So this is so awesome.
I would love to hear more nerd parents out there, please.
Yeah. Well, I hope that like lots of people connect after this. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you so much for chatting with me, and thank you all so much for listening. If this speaks to you, please go join the Facebook group and go find other people who are doing similar things to you. And if you enjoy the Sartorial Geek community, we would love if you could share the podcast with someone else you think would like it, especially this episode. If you know someone who this feels like it would be up their alley, please let them know about it. And if you could leave us a rating or check out our magazine or our Patreon, we would appreciate the support forever. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Stay nerdy, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.